Um, I first wanted to thank all of you for being here and thank Judge Liu and my fellow panelists. And Charlie C. Where's Charlie? Did he leave? Okay, good. I have waited a long time to speak with you because I really do feel and have felt that the Committee of 100 has such a pivotal role to play in the transformation and hope for the legal system of China. So thank you. It's really an honor to be here amongst such extraordinary people with an extraordinary commitment. And being here yesterday and hearing some of the speeches and really understanding the spirit of Committee of 100, I thought of the poem that we always start at International Bridges to Justice, which I'd like to share with you. We started at most of our gatherings. It's, may we be reminded here of our highest aspirations and inspired to bring our gifts of love and service to the altar of humanity. May we know once again that we are not isolated beings, but connected in mystery and wonder to each other, to this community, and to this universe. It's so inspiring because I think that my fellow panelists have set up the scene, which says China is moving forward. The rule of law is becoming such a force for the embodiment of human rights in China. And now, at this point, there is such an incredible, amazing opportunity. One of the biggest issues in China is that the laws now are there on the books, but they're not actually implemented. Now, do you think I could let's try this. Does that work? Okay. I just have a couple of pictures. But the first is a picture of a boy. And the reason that I chose it is because, first of all, because he reminds me of my own son, Noah, who's 5 years old. But the main distinction is that this boy is in a juvenile detention center in China. And he is reading material from an advisement of rights campaign that we had. While we were very excited that China is moving forward, in fact, 90% of the accused still go to trial without legal representation, and there's over a 99% conviction rate. A number of years ago, in the year 2000, I, probably like you, was reading a number of the newspaper articles and seeing that there are issues with the legal system. But actually, the newspaper articles, although they were framed in a very, very negative way for the general public, I saw them as actually being very hopeful. One article that I saw said something like, it was in the South China Morning Post. It said, you know, there is a man who has just received a legal aid attorney. He's been in prison for the last 9 years, and 9 years ago, the judge said there's not insufficient evidence, so it was, it was kicked back to the prosecutor, and it's been with the prosecutor. Now they were saying now finally a legal aid lawyer has gotten this case, and this is such a grave injustice because he's been there for 9 years. Now it's true, it's a grave injustice, but I also said, wait a minute, there's hope here. Because maybe 20 years ago, this case would never have reached it. And now there actually is a legal aid lawyer. They interviewed the legal aid lawyer. The legal aid lawyer said, actually, I think that this case is going to get kicked out now that he has me as a legal aid lawyer. Because if there was insufficient evidence 9 years ago, there's probably still insufficient evidence now. So I started thinking, wait a minute, there's some hope here. There's a piece of it. So I flew to China in the year 2000. This was right in the beginning when I was founding the organization. So International Bridges to Justice at that time was just me, unpaid staff of one. But I met with the Chinese Ministry of Justice and said, hey, can we help you? Is there a way that we can be of support to you? Now, the Chinese Ministry of Justice, under National Legal Aid of China, had at the time opened almost 3,000 legal aid centers at the time was in the last 6 years. Now that's amazing, and I would say, you know what, if anyone could do anything, it's the Chinese, right? Really quick, 3,000 legal aid centers. And they said, this is great. If your organization is really committed to coming in and helping us, partnered, to help us support our own domestic laws, our own domestic criminal laws that are supportive of human rights, we would welcome you. So with this, International Bridges to Justice signed a memo of understanding with the Chinese government, and we began our work. Now, if you look carefully, this was one of our very, very first trainings. If you see in the middle, there's Charlie C., who joined our board. And he came with me to one of these first trainings. And actually, because we have the same last name, everyone thought I was his daughter, but not telling anyone. And we brought together legal aid lawyers. So these are legal aid lawyers from all 31 provinces who came together very, very courageously. And one thing they said is they were very honest about the fact that, is that a time card? They were very honest about the fact that there were issues within their country, and that their work was really, really challenging and really difficult because of the lack of resources. And at the same time, they were hopeful. They were hopeful because there were actually laws on the books. And they said, we can use these laws. One thing that I thought was really amazing is they talked about beginning to implement human rights in their country with the support of the government, case by case, so that it wouldn't be something that's far away. It wouldn't be, there's injustice, but it's country as a whole. They said, we're gonna do this case by case. Every case that we take where there's a client or a defendant who may not have had defense counsel, who may not have had someone standing next to them going through their rights, we're gonna change it. So with this was actually one of the first trainings that we did. The lawyers came together and they came up with many creative things. One of the things they came up with is this advisement of rights poster. And I've brought a bunch of them, so if you want one, you can have one. These are translated into English and Chinese. And it says, if you're arrested, know your rights. Now, many of you may be familiar, if you go to China, that there's these big slogans that say, resist punishment, confess better treatment, which is not the law anymore. And so the lawyers said, these are all over the judge's office, the prosecutors, and the prisons, but that's not the law. How can we move this forward? So what they came up with, in the Ministry of Justice, National Legal Aid of China, put their stamp of approval on it, put their logo on it, and they say, actually, exactly the opposite. You have a right to a lawyer immediately after arrest. The law says you're innocent until the court decides after a trial. It's illegal for the police to torture, hit, or threaten or deceive you. So this started as just one of our campaigns. And we started it with just 1,000 copies because the Ministry of Justice said, yeah, these are the laws, but are they really that exciting and do we really need them? Well, it went from 1,000 copies to 10,000 to 360,000 to 500,000 to over 1 million. We ended up doing advisement of rights campaigns in every single province in China. This is just a couple of pictures of how it began to move in terms of the legal rights revolution. I know I'm limited on time, but I wanted to say that it's more than the advisement of rights campaigns. It's about people standing up and saying, these are the laws, how can we implement them? But it's also about the lawyers saying, how can we support each other and work within the legal infrastructure? So we started building International Bridges of Justice, and it's no longer unpaid staff of one. We have 21 staff now. But we have built offices in China, model legal aid centers. We started 4 in Anhui province and have started them regionally, whereby legal aid lawyers are working on case management, on resources, on actually finding ways of supporting each other to move forward. This is just a chart of some of the activities we have placed together. I know we're about to go into a conversation. I already have my card, so I wanted to stop by saying this. One of the most important things for the lawyers in China is the courage and strength they find from feeling the support of everyone around them. One of the poems that we often share together is, take courage, friends. The road is often long. The path is never clear. The stakes are very high. But deep down, there is another truth. You are not alone. So I'd ask that all of you here, if there's a way that you can come together and support these courageous lawyers. They're working together with the government. We are working to support them. Judge Liu and Charlie C. have joined us in our efforts. We need your help, and I invite you into the process. Thank you.